Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Lavish Life of Lex. Yes, I'm back for vlog number 2. Yes, we made it to the second one. I am so grateful for the amount of views and the subscribers and the likes and the comments that I received from my very first video. Like, little do you guys know, I'm so nervous about dropping it. I'm a huge perfectionist, so I want everything to look a certain way. Like, so I psyched myself out. I had anxiety over it. I was very overwhelmed because I wanted everything to be perfect. I was just so overwhelmed with joy about all the feedback that I received, and you know, the good, the bad, like everything. I was just happy that people viewed my stuff. Like, people actually was interested enough in me to watch my first vlog. So thank you to everyone who viewed. For those of you who may be new to this to my YouTube channel, can you please guys do me a favor, and the link is going to be in the bio for my very first vlog, so you guys can go back and watch that and tell me what you guys think. So today's vlog is going to be a story time video. So this particular story time is going to be about me and one of the 12 jobs that I have had. Yes, again, I did say 12 jobs. Listen, I've had a lot of jobs in my lifetime, and I'm only 30, but yeah, just know every job that I left, when I got a new job, the next job on up was better than the previous one. Whether it was the pay, the treatment, it was something that was better. So trust and believe, I came a long way. My first few jobs, I literally worked in retail. Well, no, let me rewind that back. My very first job, I was 13. I did a volunteer job at a summer camp. That's when I learned right then and there, I can't work with kids. Love kids to death, but I cannot work with them. I don't have that gift. It's just not, it's not for me. But yeah, I used to do a volunteer job, and I worked 2 summer jobs as well. After that, I used to work for Allegheny West Foundation. That's the name of it. I worked like 2 different years doing a summer job for them. That was something totally opposite than the volunteer job that I did when I was 13. But I actually entered the real workforce outside of just working a summer job after I graduated from high school in 2009. So I literally been working since then, and just got a long line of jobs from there. But what we're going to talk about today is, we are going to talk about, out of all 12 of my jobs, my worst job. Yes, we're going to talk about the very worst one, the most horrible job that I ever had. That's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start the story off. I used to work for a security company. I'm not going to say the name because I'm not trying to get sued. I'm new to this. I'm not trying to get sued at all. Like, not on my second vlog. No. I worked for a security company, one of the larger security companies in the Philly area. If you're from Philly, then you know what I'm probably talking about, what company, because a lot of people worked for them in the past, or probably still work there. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So to start off, I started with that company, the security company, back in August of 2012. Like, oh my god, it's about to be a decade now. But yeah, started back there at that job at August 2012. Altogether, I worked at 3 different sites. So with that security company, they have a lot of sites in different areas. I worked at 3 of them. I'm not going to go over all 3 of them because, like I said, it's like about 6 years worth of a story. So, and you can't even imagine how long this vlog would be if I went through what happened at each site. But we're going to specifically speak about one site, the one I was at the longest. Like, whew, when I say from day one, this job was a mess. It literally was. I went in for my interview with this site. So with my site prior, I couldn't stay at that site because the union that they had was totally opposite than my very first site. So, which I got let go from, by the way. But yeah, so I could not stay at the second site. So that's when I had to start interviewing for another site. So this one specific site, the one I ended up working at for all those years, I went for my interview. When I went for my interview at that site, basically I let them know, like, hey, I'm getting paid this amount at this site, and these are the hours that I'm looking for. are those hours available? You know, of course, most people know nowadays, these jobs, they will tell you what they want, what you want to hear, so that you'll take the job so they can have an employee. And at the time, I was 20, I was 22 at the time, so I didn't really know no better. I just, you know, was trying to find another site because I knew I couldn't work at my second one anymore. So pretty much they told me what I wanted to hear. It told me after my probationary period, I would go back to making what I would be making, but they gave me a specific amount that I would be starting off with, which I was like, okay, that's cool, that's doable. I'm taking a little bit of a pay cut, but I can work with it. Because also, what I forgot to mention, at the time, I was only looking for part-time work. I was working another part-time job at my college. I went to Pierce College. I'm an alumni of Pierce College. I graduated in 2014. And I have a bachelor's in business administration. So at the time, I was still working there part-time in the admissions office. Loved that job, by the way. That was like probably one of my favorites. Loved that job. And that job was like really chill and just a good and work environment. But just so we don't get sidetracked. So yeah, at the time, I was only looking for part-time work, but I didn't want to keep continuously working on weekends, because that's all I was given with my first two prior sites, weekends. And I didn't want to keep working weekends because at the time I had a small business. I had a business called the Jewelry Bar. I used to sell jewelry. I used to do vending events and stuff. So that was kind of messing me up with doing that. So I needed something straight. If they were going to give me days on a week, Monday through Friday, I didn't need full-time hours, but just gave me like, if they would have gave me like 3 days on a week, that would have been fine. That's what we agreed upon. They said they could do that, so I said fine. So which should have been a dead giveaway that this site was a mess. They called me one day and told me, after they hired me and everything, they told me that they needed me to come in for an orientation. So I'm like, okay, cool. So the orientation was going to be on a Saturday morning. So that Friday night, I was still young, went out partying, got really, really drunk. So mind you, Saturday morning I wake up, hangover. But I still made my way down there because I wanted to give a good impression. I didn't want to not go or, you know, show up late. So I got there on time. I get there and the supervisor that was there on that shift didn't even know who I was. And I'm looking like, what do you mean you don't know who I am? They must have didn't inform him that I would be coming in. So he ended up figuring out what was going on. They ended up canceling the meeting and they forgot to call me. So I was a little annoyed because I'm looking like I did not have to break my sleep, my beauty rest to come all the way down here. But that was the situation. So I just was like, okay, and I just went home. So that Monday, the account manager, she called me, let me know, hey, we're going to schedule your orientation for this date. So I was like, okay, cool. So a couple of days later was my orientation done. So this is when things start to get a little interesting. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that. So okay, at this specific site, I had an account manager and I had an assistant account manager, and I interviewed with both of them. So they told me, you know, that my pay rate would go back to what it was at my prior site, and that I would have weekday hours, right? So the day of the orientation, we go over different things we need to go over. They're giving me information about the site. Okay, that was fine, that was well. Where things went left, they had me sign a paper. It said the pay rate, and I'm looking at the rate, and I'm looking like, this is not what we discussed. And then I seen my schedule, and I seen that they had me working, not only the day, I mean, working on the weekend. They had me working 3 to 11. I'm looking like, this is not what we agreed upon. So I instantly had a little bit of an attitude. But I didn't want to come at them with an attitude. So I collected myself. I actually went to speak with them in the office because they were still there at the time. So I asked them like, hey, like, I'm looking at the pay rate and I'm looking at the schedule, and this is not what we discussed. The actual account manager, she looked at me like I had 10 heads. Like really totally played oblivious to what the conversation we initially had. So she basically was trying to say that she did not say that. And I'm like, you did say that, because trust me, I would not have came to this specific site had you not told me that. I would have just, you know, rocked out into walking on something that was going to work with me. She swore, but she didn't say that. Her and she had the assistant account manager chime in, and she like, oh no, yeah, that was a sad. So I'm just like, I know they not trying to play me right now. So at the time I was, like I said, I was 22. I was still a little spicy, still temperamental, and still trying to learn, like, you know, I still had a mouth on me at that point. So I kind of went off a little bit. Not like I didn't start yelling or cursing, but like I started with my mouth. My mouth back then was crazy. Didn't know what to say out my mouth, didn't know how to like word stuff properly. So I started getting frustrated with the conversation because it's just like, I'm not lying and you like, stop trying to play with me like that. So I ended up asking the account manager, like, okay, so if you're saying that you did not say this and I'm saying that you did say this, you're basically trying to call me a liar then. Is that what you're gonna try to call me? So she gave me this look, like this puzzled look, like literally I caught her off guard with it. She's like, no, I'm not trying to call you a liar, like maybe you misunderstood. So after a while I just kind of gave up. I'm like, I'm not about to keep going back and forth with these people, like whatever. So I just kind of went with it. Now mind you, we had a union, but I didn't really know much information about the union at the time, so I did not go to the union with my issue, because I feel like if I went to the union, this all could have been addressed, settled, and everything would have been fine. So I didn't do that. I had an attitude, I was pissed, but I just thought it was nothing I could do about it, so I left it as that. So after that, I guess I must have left a bad taste in their mouth, because they seemed like, oh, she's not a pushover. They didn't like that. They didn't like that I wasn't going to just kind of be passive and just let them do whatever. So they seen how I was at that point, but they couldn't just fire me because then it wouldn't have looked right. So what ended up happening was, just over time with those two, the account manager and the assistant account manager, I had so many run-ins with them, like literally arguments, them purposely, like they started trying to write me up for little stupid things. Like it was this one particular time I had to greet in the morning, and so when you greet, you have to speak to everybody that walk in the door, say, you know, good morning, have a nice day, whatever, but smile. This one specific lady, she complained that when she walked in that she spoke to me, I didn't speak back and my face was balled up and I rolled my eyes or something like that, which I didn't do that. I spoke to everybody that walked through the door. She complained to the supervisor, and the supervisor must have told either one of the account managers, and next thing you know, I was receiving a write-up, and I'm looking like, but I spoke to everybody that walked through here. So that turned into a debate, like, oh, you're not friendly enough, you don't have a friendly demeanor, you don't smile enough. And I'm like, I don't, like, you know, I smile as much as I can, but I don't have to smile all day like I'm a damn chessy cat. Like, okay, like as long as I'm gentle and I'm kind when I'm greeting people, and you know, I'm speaking to everybody, what's the big thing? Like, they try to write me up for that. That was the first time they tried to write me up. So what I ended up doing was, after they wrote me up for that, I spoke to one of the more senior staff members that worked there, and they told me, you know, go to the union. So I went to the union, I explained the situation. We ended up having a grievance, and I explained my side of the story. Like, you know, I'm new here, I speak to everybody, but maybe she just didn't hear me. I don't have like the deepest voice. I can kind of speak kind of softly at times, so maybe she didn't hear me. I don't know. So they threw their write-up out. So of course, management, they were pissed. Which I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, when with the union representing you, if they lose a grievance, that goes against their account. So they have a certain budget that each site has. So every time you get a grievance and they lose, I think money gets taken out of their budget, and you know, whatever money is left over at the end of the budget, I think that goes towards their bonuses. So they were kind of pissed about that. So next thing you know, I started getting targeted, like literally targeted for any little thing. Oh, you're not smiling, oh, you're not being friendly enough, like any little teeny tiny thing. Oh, it looked like you were looking on your phone, or just like the smallest stuff. They just started targeting me for every little thing, and I was getting frustrated. But of course, back then, like I said, I was still a little spicy, so I was getting right back with them. And not only that, it was a lot of the people in there was buddy with each other, so I was kind of like the outcast. And a lot of the workers, and especially a lot of the supervisors, did not care for me, all because of the run-ins I had with the two managers. So they started bothering me. Like, and I'm not saying that I was a perfect worker. Sure, I did little stuff just like everybody else did, but the way they was targeting me, it was just like, it was blatant, it was clear that they were bothering me specifically because they did not like me. So time went on. I worked, like I said, I literally worked at that specific site for like 5 years, close to 5 years. So this went on for a long time. The entire time I basically worked there, this went on. So what ended up happening was eventually we got a new account manager. We still had the assistant account manager, but we ended up switching account managers. So I'm thinking, okay, we got a new account manager now. Maybe things will change a little bit, get a little bit better. Wrong again. Okay, so when this specific account manager started, it was a male, older guy. He started off friendly and nice, but then after a while he started trying me too. It kind of went left with me and him. It was one time in the morning he spoke to me. I think he was trying to have a conversation with me, like just general conversation. But that day I forgot what happened that morning, but I was in a bad mood. I didn't really feel like talking. I'm not really a morning person like that. So he was just trying to like really bust it up. And I mean, I talked to him, but I kind of must have been dry. He must have not liked my energy. I don't know. After that, this man started bothering me about every little thing as well. And then, not to mention, I believe the assistant manager probably put whatever little bug in his ear and he just, you know, ran with it. So what he started doing was he started targeting me. Like so first it started with the hair and nose. So I always, back then, this is like maybe 2013, 2014, like about 2014 at the time maybe, I was into wearing the longer bundles. Like, you know, long hair don't care. And I was into getting the 3D designs. I didn't used to wear my nose long like this, but I would always have some crazy stuff in my nose. So, mind you, all this time, it was never a problem with nose, never a problem with hair. Next thing I know, they coming up with a memo. You have to wear, if your hair is past a certain length, you gotta wear it in a bun, and you have to wear a professional type of nose. So they told me I couldn't wear the 3D designs, which that was fine because I kept having issues with the 3D designs coming off the pieces. I kept having issues, so I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I'm thinking, okay, it's cool, solid color. So it was time for me to get my nose done anyway. So I got my nose done. So I came in here with my nose with a teal color, like literally the color of this one nose right here, right? I get pulled in the office, and mind you, at this point with this specific account manager, he was pulling me in the office like every day. Pulls me in the office and says the color that I had on my nose wasn't a professional color. And I was like, well, you didn't exactly say that. You just said don't come in here with like the 3D designs on here. And then that's what I did. You didn't say, like, because like to me, what does professional color mean? Like I said, I was still fairly young, so I didn't really know. So he was like, oh no, well, you're going to have to change your color. And I'm like, well, I can't change my color immediately. Like, I just, you know, one, y'all not paying me that much. I just literally got my nose done. So I came in here, this is like on a Friday. Then Monday I came back, my nose was so the teal color. So he pulls me in the office once again and literally wrote me up because I didn't change my color. But I'm looking like, I'm not paying to get my nose done twice in one pay. Like, nose aren't cheap. And I had to wait until the next pay period. So he wrote me up for that. So at this point, I'm just like, okay. I noticed it was people on an overnight shift and people that work on the weekends. They were wearing all types of bright color nose, had their hair long past their butt and everything, and nobody said nothing to them. So I'm like, okay, clearly they're targeting me. So I went to the union again for the umpteenth time. At this point, I was a frequent visitor at the union. Like, they knew me by name in here at that point. We had a grievance. Of course, I made the management look very much stupid because they were clearly targeting me. It was very, very clear. If before it wasn't clear, it was very clear that they were specifically targeting me. Of course, I beat that grievance. They were pissed. So next thing you know, it became an everyday thing. Them pulling me in the office for every little thing. It even got to the point where he tried to write me up because he said I wasn't friendly enough with my coworkers. Now, where is it a written rule to be buddy-buddy with your coworkers? As long as you walk in there, you speak to everyone, and you greet everyone, and you're respectful, that's all that matters. I wasn't being disrespectful to anyone or anything like that. So it just was like little petty stuff kept bothering me, kept bothering me. So we kept having grievances, kept beating them. Eventually he ended up realizing, like, you know what, I'm gonna leave this girl alone because he wasn't beating them grievances and it wasn't benefiting him, and he probably got tired of going over there. So they left me alone, and you know, eventually we end up getting another person in his place. He ended up leaving. He found another site to go to, and we end up getting another person. So when we end up getting another person, the one that was originally the assistant account manager, she became the account manager, and the new guy that started was the assistant account manager. He was under her. So that's when things really got crazy, because mind you, she was there for me, with me from day one, and she never cared for me. So of course, once again, put the little bug in his ear, but he didn't really treat me differently or anything like that. I didn't exactly have an issue with him. But at that point, so when I forgot to mention to you guys, when I first started at that site, I was working maybe one day during the weekend, on the weekends. So just at this point, this had been probably like maybe like 3 years, and at that point different people had left and stuff like that. So I was working Friday through Monday. I was working, and at this point I had graduated from college as well, so I was able to work full-time type of hours. So on Fridays and Mondays I was working 12-hour shifts, and on Saturday and Sunday I was working an 8-hour shift. So I was, at that point, I was able to work during the week, and I had to work on the weekends, which I was happy for, because like that's all what I always wanted. I always wanted to work Monday through Friday. I did not want to work on weekends. So I don't know, that it was a good thing because I had my freedom on the weekends, but it was a bad thing because I was there with them all during the week, so they couldn't bother me even more. And I was there with the other staff, which most of the staff there didn't like me. So yeah, it was crazy. It was a mess. That's another thing I forgot to talk about with you guys. So outside of the fact that management and the supervisors couldn't stand me, my coworkers didn't really care for me either. A lot of them were older. The ones that were my age, we got along perfectly fine. Never had no run-ins, no problems. A lot of the ones I got into it with was always much older, like literally old enough to be my mom. Like, so it was just very crazy. It's like I didn't understand, like, you're old enough to be my mom and you acting like this. Why are you trying to pick an argument with somebody that's basically a child to you? Like, literally, I think it was because at the time I was like one of the younger ones there. I guess I came off like I was soft spoken, and then I was like much smaller. I was skinny, so they probably was like, oh, this old girl, she ain't gonna say nothing. They thought I was passive, but once they seen I wasn't passive and I had to tell a few of them about themselves, it kind of went somewhere else. So yeah, I got into so many different confrontations with co-workers, management. It was just, that job was just a very, very toxic environment for me. And I'm not going to say that I was never wrong in none of the instances, but like more so, I'm the type of person, I do not start with people. I mind my business. I just always be trying to like have a good time. But with the problem, what my issue was at the time is I did not know how to walk away. I always felt like I had to prove myself. I always felt like I had to say something. Like, so yeah, that was a uphill battle that I went through for years with them. But in the meanwhile, in between all this, I was applying for jobs. At that point, I had graduated from college 2014, so that was maybe a year after I started that site, because I started that site when I was still a junior. So the following year I graduated with my bachelor's, and like maybe a little bit after receiving my bachelor's, I did start putting in for other jobs, but it was difficult. Like, it wasn't easy, you know. Trying to find a job in general was not easy. And at the time, I was not, earlier on in my earlier interviews that I was having with some of the more professional jobs, I wasn't the best at interviewing at that time. So some of the stuff I said in my interviews was like, I could see why they didn't hire me. But as the years went on and I got more experience with interviews, I started watching videos on here on YouTube, and I started looking up stuff on Google, like questions that I was asked and the best way to answer them. So I like literally perfected the way that I interviewed. I fixed my cover letter, my resume, I fixed all that stuff. So at this point I was starting to get more callbacks, but I still wasn't getting hired, and I was getting very frustrated, very discouraged. It was just, I was starting to like doubt like what I went to school for. I was a business major when I was in college. I went to school for business administration, and my concentration was in management. So I was starting to feel like oh my god, I wasted my time going to school. I got paid these loans back. I wasted my time going to school for this, and nobody won't hire me. It was just a very dark part of my life. Like literally I had a lot of stuff going on just mentally around that time. So a lot of me being combative at that job, it wasn't just because they kept starting with me. I had other things going on in life, and I was dealing with a lot of stuff. I had a lot of things I was dealing with just on a mental note, and I wasn't in the best space at that time. So, and then not to mention like me not being able to find a better job, and I had graduated from college, and it was always put in my head like, go to college, you'll find a really good job, and I wasn't getting those results. So I was really upset. I was discouraged. It was a very hard time in my life, but it got to the point where like I was going into that job every day, and I was having anxiety attacks because I hated that job so much. I was grateful to be getting a paycheck, but I hated that job because it was just like a lot of drama, and just the energy from the people, it just was like too much, and I was completely over it. So what ended up happening through all this madness, I was talking to my aunt one day. My aunt, she's like a second mom to me. Like, I'm not gonna hold you, don't judge me, but sometimes I listen to my aunt a little bit more than I listen to most people. Like, honestly, like, she is like, you might as well say she like my other mom. One day I was telling her what's going on. I was crying on the phone, telling her about the stuff that had happened at the job that specific day, because I was just over it. And what she said to me is something that to this day I have taken through my life, and it made me a better person, and it made me learn how to deal with stuff much better as well. So my aunt basically told me, she asked me, she was like, do you want me to be honest with you? And I'm like, sure, be honest with me. She told me, she was like, did you ever sit back and think that maybe your mouth is blocking your blessings? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She was like basically telling me the way you react to things, the fact that you feel like you always have to react to something, you always got to be combative and about to get into fights with people. And because this stuff wasn't only going on in my job, this stuff was going on in my life. I just felt like I always had to respond to stuff people said and people negativity, and this was just in all areas of my life. It wasn't just at work. And like I said, I've never been a drama-filled person, but you came to me with that, I was going to bring it right back to you full throttle. So yeah, that was the type of person I was back then. I was angry, I was hurt about a lot of different things that I did not deal with yet. So that was the space I was in. She was like, your mouth is blocking your blessings. Like, you need to get to the point where you need to realize that you do not have to respond to everything. You don't have to fight and argue with everybody. You have to learn how to walk away and just learn how to pick your battles. So like what she said, like she said a little bit more than that. And at the time, like I'm just looking like what is she talking about? Like I heard her, but I didn't really hear her. So I let it seep in my head. I did, and I started like just baby steps, like little stuff would happen at the job. Because like I said, it was like on the deli that something was happening at the job. Little by little, I'm not saying it happened overnight, but little by little I started trying to ignore people, not entertain the nonsense. Or if I heard somebody say something about me, I wasn't addressing it. I like little by little I started to like get to that point where I wasn't entertaining the nonsense. So like I would say close to a year after that was the real full test right there. So okay, so I said I didn't want to say specific names, but I am going to make up some names. So I had one coworker, she was very messy, always in some nonsense, always talking about somebody. We were going to name her Lisa. One of my coworkers that I was friends with, that kind of had something to do with the situation, we're going to name her Ashley. And another co-worker, still good friends with, we're going to name her Brittany. She's the one that played peacemaker in that situation. And then it was two supervisors, we're going to name them Larry, we're going to name the other one Mike. So one specific day, my co-worker, we're still friends to this day, Ashley had got some information that Lisa had, you know, that Lisa was speaking negatively about her, about her parents, and about a number of different things. So she told me about it, which I had heard some of the stuff that was said, but I knew that Ashley had a horrible temper and I didn't want her to get fired. So I didn't bring that back to her. Just me being her friend, I didn't want to see her get fired with a newborn. So I didn't tell her what I had been hearing about the job, around the job, that Lisa had been saying or whatever, because that wasn't the first time I heard those things. But she never directly said it to me, but I heard it through the grapevine. People in there run their mouth. So she basically was pissed, and she was like, you know, when Lisa came back into work, she was going to confront her and say something to her. She didn't appreciate things that was said. So fast forward to like maybe a day or so later, Lisa came in. She was like one of them fake type of people, smiling in your face, be talking about everybody. So she went to approach Ashley and say, hey, how you doing? Ashley asked to speak with her. They had a conversation. Ashley confronted her about what she was told that was said. At this point, she was pissed. I think they had words. Lisa got mad and stormed off. So Lisa was actually, by the way, very cool with both supervisors, Larry and Mike. So what ended up happening was I get a call over the walkie for me to come up to the little office area where everybody was at. Well, not everybody, but where Lisa, both supervisors was at. That was like the little camera area, like where all the cameras and stuff is at. There was a person that worked in here. So as I'm coming up, because I was doing a tour at the time, as I'm coming up the escalator, Ashley ran into me and she told me what happened, and she told me, like, you know, be careful, so I wouldn't be getting bombarded as soon as I walked into their room. So I'm like, okay. So I already had that in the back of my mind of what happened. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go in there, like literally, I went in there, I sat down on the counter. I seen the look on Lisa's face. She looked pissed, and I'm just sitting there like, okay. So she comes to me and was like on some rowdy stuff. Did you tell Ashley this, that, and the third? And I was like, no. But listen, I'm gonna need you to calm down and lower your tone. Don't walk up on me like that. That was the first time I said that. So she's all hype and rowdy, like, well, somebody told her that I said this and that third, and I didn't say it. And it just was like a bunch of dumb stuff. So I'm just sitting here like, I'm the type of person, I'm very, very goofy. And I'm not really one to really try to argue with. I will laugh right in your face, especially like if I'm not on some serious hype and rowdy stuff and you're like all animated, I'm gonna start laughing. So she was like super hype, super rowdy, like I'm gonna do this, that, and third, and doing all this, you know, the typical like thing that black girls do when they're angry. So doing all the hand gestures and the neck rolling and doing all of that. So I'm just sitting here just looking at her laughing. So again, she said something like in the nature of, well, I smack anybody that working here. And I'm like, well, you're not gonna touch me. And she was like, so she turned around, looked at me, what does look like. So I gave her a look back, like, yo, listen, yeah, like I said, you're not gonna touch me. Like, listen, this is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, if you weren't walking around talking about people the way that you do, then nobody would be able to question you about what you said. You talk about people so much. Like, how can you try to pinpoint me as the person that went back and said something? You shouldn't walk around talking about people constantly, and you wouldn't have to worry about this. You wouldn't be in this predicament. I was like basically at your age. She was much older. I think she had me by like 10 years. So she was like in her mid-30s, acting like a whole child, just like gossiping and just being extremely messy. So she was pissed when I said that. So she says, I heard my voice, everybody talks about everybody. I'm like, no, some of us just come here and mind our business and do our job. Like, you're very, like, you always, and I was honest. Like, I'm a very honest person. And sometimes my honesty gets me into trouble, but whatever. I was straightforward with her. Like, listen, you always talking about people. You always, like, you smile on people's face and you be talking about everybody that you talk to. So, like, what did you expect? Like, come on, you don't think people talk? So she gets mad. She tries to walk up again. So I said something. My mom, I was laughing at the time. I was like, listen, man, you might want to back up. Like, don't keep walking up on me like that. So then, more co-workers started walking in. So it was quiet for a little bit. I'm just sitting here just looking like. So more co-workers started walking in. So she starts getting loud and hype and rowdy again. So at this point, I'm starting to get annoyed. I'm just like, all right, she walked up on me again. Like, it is what it is at that point. So she was hyping and rowdy, talking about what she was going to do to people just there in the third. So I'm just sitting here laughing. So she like, she said something in regards to me laughing. And I'm looking like, yeah, because you're like all hype and rowdy and you're not going to do anything at the end of the day. Like, my thing is, if you was trying to do something, you would have been walked up and did something. At the end of the day, like I said, And that's how you know when a black girl say, like I said, that's when you know they up there. But I was just basically like I said, you know, at the end of the day, you wasn't walking around talking about everybody. You wouldn't have to worry about nobody saying that you said anything. This pissed her off even more. So at this point, mind you, both supervisors was in there. One of them at the time, I think Larry, had left out. He left out because the account manager had called him because Ashley let the account manager know what was going on. So he had got called up to the office, but Mike was still in there. At this point, when she tried to walk up again, that's when I got mad. Cause I was like, yeah, you're not going to, 3 strikes, you're out. That's it. So I just basically like kind of started snapping, like, listen, back up. And I said it was some more like some little to it. Like, back up. Stop walking up on me. Like, get out my face. And won't be a problem. Like, you're not gonna keep walking up on me. Like, this not it. So at this point, she was looking like, I don't know what she was gonna try. I don't think she really was gonna do anything. She was putting on a show because there was other co-workers in here. But at that point, the other supervisor, Mike, he got up and was like, you know what, enough is enough. And then the other co-worker, Brittany, she just so happened to be in there, seeing what was going on, and she like kind of like come on, she grabbed my arm and she pulled me out. Because at that point, I'm ready to put hands and feet on this girl, because like, don't keep walking up on me. There's like always like a trigger for me, somebody getting in my personal space. I don't like nobody in my personal space. So and that was like a whole mess. At that point, I was pissed. I mean, honestly, I was pissed. I was like extremely pissed off at that point. Like, I wanted to fight. There was like an initial, I think, emotion of anybody that goes through something like that. So I ended up speaking to the account manager. So what ended up happening with that situation, Lisa, she ended up getting suspended. Larry should have got fired because he the one who called me in here for that nonsense in the first place. Nothing was done to him, I don't believe. I think he might have received a write-up. And Mike got fired, which was unfair because technically Larry was the one that called me into the room for that nonsense in the first place. Because like I said, they was all in cahoots. But yeah, that's what happened. Like, honestly, to this day, when I think about it, it still kind of like makes me a little annoyed that she got in my personal space like that. Like, normally, old me, that girl would have been on the floor somewhere. Or it would have been something that it didn't need to be. And I probably would have got fired and probably had some charges pressed against me or something like that. But I didn't react. I did what my aunt told me to do. I didn't like get aggressive like I typically would have done. And that's when I realized like the growth within me, that I really grew. Old me, this would have went somewhere totally left. But I handled it pretty well. I didn't get aggressive. Like, I mean, I did a little bit towards the end, which was only natural, but I didn't react like I typically would have reacted. And that was a good thing. I was really proud of myself that day, even though at the time I was pissed. But all right, sorry you guys, my camera died, so I had to use my phone real quick. But literally after that happened, I still was there for a little bit after that. Of course, little things was said, little things was done. I was just ignoring them because I knew eventually I was getting out of there. You know, like I said, I had my little moments where I was down, where I was sad. Like, it was to the point with that job, I had anxiety going in there because I hated that job. I hated how it reflected on me. Like, a lot of times when I would come out there, I would be so annoyed with that job. I would have an attitude. I would bring the attitude home. Like, just thinking about that job, I would instantly get an attitude. So I had to deal with those emotions for like maybe a couple months. And then what I ended up doing was pray to God. I always pray to God. But I said a little prayer. I prayed to God that, because I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to be honest with y'all. It was a couple people in that job because of things they had did to me when I was working there, like to the point where, like I said, that wasn't the first incident where I almost got into blows with a coworker, but that was probably one of the worst ones. That could have really went there, to be honest. But I said a prayer to God, like, listen, God, if you do me this favor and help me to get out of this negative environment, I promise that I will not put my hands on none of these people in this job when I leave. because I'm not going to hold you. Although I said I was going to chill, but a part of me, I was still, I wasn't fully there yet. So it was a couple people in there. I was like, when I leave this job, if I catch them outside this job, it's on. But I prayed, like, listen, I promise to you, I would not put my hand on a coworker or even say anything to them if I see them outside this job. Just please do me this one favor and help me to get it out of here, because it was just like a negative, toxic environment, and it was really just messing with my mental. So literally shortly after that, like I would say maybe within the next 2 weeks, I seen another job was hiring. I put in for it. I had to go down and take the test for it. I did the interview, and within a month, like a month and a half, I got a new job. And when I say I cried when I found out I got that job. I literally cried. And that job after that I took, no, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was the best job, but it got me out of that negative situation. So I was very, very happy and thankful. And to this day, I kept my word. I ran into some of those old co-workers of mine a few times. I didn't say nothing to them. Nothing. Just let them live, and I just went on with my life. Because at the end of the day, like my eyes told me, your mouth and your actions can block your blessings, and you don't have to prove yourself to people. Sometimes you just gotta let people think what they want to think and just go on. Like, let them go ahead. So that's what I did, and I was able to find a better job. Well, I thought was a better job. We want to do a part 2 to this with the story time. The next job after this was a mess as well, but I wasn't there as long. I was only there for a few months, so we could talk about their job too, because it's a lesson with their job too. But what I will say that I took from the security job that I worked, I will say that it was a very humbling experience. That job humbled me. Like, to this day, don't get me wrong, I had my little shortcomings and I had my little moments where I might react, but it's very rare nowadays. That job humbled me. That job made me realize I don't have to react to everything, and that, like, a lot of people are miserable, and misery loves company, and people will try to drag you down to where they are at. I took that away from their job, and I also made some very great friends. Like, some of the people that I'm friends with to this day, I worked with from there. One of them actually was the one from my first video. I spoke about a wedding that I was in. That was very honored to be in. Actually, she came from there. I met her from their job. So I took away some very good friends, and I was humbled by working at that job. It helped me to get in better control of my temper and just get in a better space where I realized, like, everything is not worth a response. So some positives that come out of working at that job. I literally grew up working at that job. I grew up a whole lot, and although that job stressed me out, I'm glad I went through the experience, because I don't have any regrets about anything that I do, because at the end of the day, everything is a lesson. Life is all about lessons, and there was a lesson I needed to learn. I needed to learn how to control that little spicy temper of mine and to ignore people, because people are going to try you in the deli, and you can't fight everybody. Everything is not worth having a battle for, So, yeah, so that's my story time. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming and viewing my second vlog number 2. Thank you for coming and viewing. I should probably put up my next posting maybe within the next week or 2. I'm trying to, like, stay consistent and do every week or 2 weeks. My next vlog will probably be me actually going out somewhere, so I could find somewhere to go, so I could record, so I could show you guys what's to do, what is there to do in the Philly and the tri-state areas surrounding Philly. So I will be back very soon. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Just, we can have a conversation, just like with my last post. Let me know what you think. Tell me some of your crazy work experiences, because I feel like we all got them, especially people around my age. We hop from job to job, because, like, once we tired of job, we out. It was one thing I will say about my generation. And also, if you want to learn more about me and just see the things I do in the deli, my social media platforms will be below in the bio. So follow me. Like I said, I put up a lot of TikToks and reels, and you know, post a lot of funny stuff in my stories along with me posting pictures when I'm out and stuff like that. So yes, follow me please, and once again, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that you can get alerted about my next posting when I post it up. So thank you guys again for watching, and see you soon.